Russian forces may be currently committing tactical and operational reserves to fighting in eastern Ukraine in an effort to maintain and potentially intensify the tempo of ongoing Russian offensive operations, says the Institute for the Study of War, adding that the Russian ability to make significant gains is still dependent on the level of Western support for Ukraine, and continued delays in Western security assistance will increase the risk of operationally significant Russian gains in the long run. Difficult weather and terrain conditions in spring 2024 will likely constrain effective mechanized maneuver on both sides of the line and further limit Russian capabilities to make significant tactical advances while the ground is still muddy. Russian forces are reportedly preparing for a new offensive effort in late May or summer 2024, and Western security assistance to Ukraine will likely play a significant role in determining the prospects of that effort.
EU member states voted in favour of a landmark new law known as the due diligence, requiring companies to check supply chains for dodgy environmental and labour practices. Europe wants to make sure that companies respect labour rights and environmental rules throughout the supply chain. A done deal was made back in December, but some countries like Germany and Italy finally refused to approve the text. They watered down the deal, which means that far fewer companies will be under scope.
If the original Commission proposal with the original thresholds would have applied to about 1% of EU companies in the single market, we now estimate that the current version adopted by Council will only apply to 0.05% of companies, EU companies active in the single market. We are not able to give an estimation for non-EU companies that can also fall into scope at certain conditions. So it's not even, you can't even speak of a minority of companies covered. It's a drop in the water, and it will clearly only apply to very large, very rich companies, which is something that we forcefully denounce.
The text has also removed civil liability provisions, which would allow trade unions to sue non-compliant firms. But despite this, experts say that there are still reasons to celebrate.
We denounce the fact that member states have tried all of the dirty games in the book to try and cut as many companies out of scope, because we really do believe that the criteria set out by the original compromise were fair and feasible for companies. But this doesn't mean that there is nothing to celebrate for tonight. For once, this legislation is an unprecedented global precedent, because it's the first legislation in the world that actually sets the legal expectation I was referring to, that actually says companies are expected not to harm human rights, and that is the law of the land.
Now member states have 2 years to implement the law. Meanwhile, companies need to get ready to apply the new rules.
Polish farmers blocking a border crossing with Slovakia. They're protesting against the transport through this frontier of what they describe as uncontrolled loads of grain from countries including Ukraine. Farmers are also angry about restrictions placed on them by the EU's Green Deal plan to tackle climate change.
My walczymy o to, żeby nam nikt nie wchodził do domu, nie dyktował, co my mamy robić, jak mamy żyć, co mamy produkować. Rolnik wie, co ma produkować, kiedy ma wyjść w pole, kiedy ma zasiać, kiedy ma skosić, kiedy ma cokolwiek zrobić. Żaden urzędnik w Brukseli tego nie wie.
Farmers across Europe have been calling for changes to restrictions placed on them under the Green Deal and the reimposition of custom duties on agricultural imports from Ukraine. Polish farmers say this border blockade will stay in place until the end of the month.
Elderly citizens and retirees can now find jobs as Olympic security guards in Paris. The recruitment campaign has been launched in response to the shortage of younger candidates. Seniors are being called in to help with bag searches, ticket checks and surveillance. Nearly 7,000 people are still needed. Over 180,000 retired people aged 62 to 65 have been asked to lend a helping hand, and 600 of them have already accepted.